So I want to do a response to Shamsi's video that he gave at Speaker's Corner, which was in some way supposed to be a response to the argument that I made from the hadiths, in which Muhammad clearly stated that water was not polluted by anything, and that Muhammad instructed some of his followers that they could perform their ablutions at a well that had rotting dogs' carcasses, human feces and menstrual towels. Now, for what strange reason that baffles me, Shamsi tried to compare this tiny well in Medina to the vastness of the ocean.
How many people go to the seaside and they go to the beach and urinate and do feces, and you have no problem to go swim inside? Nah. Why? Because because there's a lot of water will purify that.
That just doesn't follow at all. The well in question is in an extremely small well, and it can't be compared to a free-flowing body of water. It's a well. But on the back of that, Shamsi goes on to quote some scholars. Now, these scholars are unnamed, but essentially Shamsi quotes a ruling that says that
if the water smell different, then you're not allowed to use it as means of purification. If the water, the color changes, same thing. And if the water taste changes, it's the same thing. So what hadith is that shows you in that well, the water is a lot, so that impurity does not affect it. And
the reason I imagine that he's doing that is to defend the idea of what Muhammad said in terms of the ablutions with the well. And I'm kind of confused as to how rotting dogs' carcasses, menstrual towels and human feces wouldn't affect the well in question. And then Shamsi made reference to another hadith in which apparently this well is said to be clean, but he didn't actually quote it, so I'll wait for you to quote that reference for us, Shamsi. However, if Shamsi is using the defense of the scholars to defend Muhammad's statement that nothing makes water impure, then basically his scholars are contradicting Muhammad, because Muhammad said nothing makes water impure, but the scholars are saying if something changes its odor, its color or its taste, it's impure, can't be used for wudu. So then the obvious question follows, Shamsi, who's right, your prophet or your scholars? Because the two don't seem to agree. So please bring forward the hadiths that you want to reference to demonstrate that this ruling made by the scholars is coming from Muhammad rather than just the scholars making something up. But then what do you do with odorless, colourless, tasteless poisons that would obviously contaminate water? You know, it's a very extreme example, but such substances exist. Now, I did think about whether to name one of these substances, but these things can be researched and found very easily on Google, so I'm going to say one of these substances, such as themolene. Themolene is a highly toxic substance, but it's odorless, so it wouldn't affect the smell of water. It's tasteless, so it wouldn't affect the taste of water, and it is colourless, so it wouldn't affect the colour of water. So that passes the three tests given by your scholars. But it's poison and toxic, hugely toxic, incredibly toxic. And what's worse is it can be absorbed through the skin. You don't even need to drink it. So if you actually perform wudu with water contaminated with themolene, you die. Now, according to your scholars, who are obviously, I guess, working from what Muhammad's saying, then water cannot be made impure by anything. But clearly it can. And it is made impure even by things that are odorless, colourless and tasteless. There's a more obvious conclusion that you should come to, Shamsi, which is that your prophet wasn't on a direct hotline to God, and he didn't know about themolene, and he doesn't know about water contaminants and pathogens being passed into water, which then can enter into the human body. And he didn't know because he's not a prophet, and God wasn't speaking to him. And then you talked about...
In your Bible, God said to the Israelites in Ezekiel, use your human feces to cook food. Yes, it's in the Bible. Ezekiel. Use your human feces or the animal feces to cook food. So I believe Bob and other Christians, they're more clean than God.
What that is actually talking about is a series of prophetic acts that God instructed Ezekiel to do, to be a testament, a prophetic witness to what God was going to do to Israel. These are in no ways instructions to the rest of us. So you're trying to create a false comparison between God giving specific instructions to Ezekiel for him to do in his time as a prophetic testimony against the people of Israel, showing what God is going to do, with the fact that your prophet instructs his followers to do things, and your prophet makes claims that are scientifically bogus. I pity you, Shamsi, that you have to try and duck so low to rescue your prophet. But I don't know if I pity your audience more that they actually take your argument seriously. And I would challenge you to actually read Ezekiel properly and to stop being disingenuous to your Muslim audience. And I would encourage Shamsi's audience to actually pick up a book and go and read, because you're being completely misled by the person that you're watching on YouTube.